Welcome back to this day in Scottish history. I'm your host, Colin MacDonald. Today we journey back to April 28th, 1650, when the brilliant but ill-fated James Graham, first Marquess of Montrose, fought his final tragic battle at Carbisdale. It was a day of betrayal, desperation, and the closing act of one of Scotland's most compelling figures. And if you're curious about other fascinating events that happened on this day in history, be sure to check out my blog at bagtownclans.com/thisday. The link will be in the description. By the spring of 1650, Scotland was in turmoil. The wars of the three kingdoms had left the land divided, weary, and bloodied. King Charles I had been executed the previous year, and his son Charles II was struggling to reclaim his father's throne. Scotland, nominally a kingdom of royalists, had fallen under the control of the Covenanters, a stern Presbyterian faction that had made uneasy alliances with England's parliamentarians. Into this complex and dangerous political landscape stepped James Graham, better known as the Marquess of Montrose. Montrose had once been a Covenanter himself, but he had switched sides, becoming one of Charles I's most dashing and daring commanders. Between 1644 and 1645, he had led a brilliant guerrilla campaign across Scotland, winning a string of unlikely victories against overwhelming odds. But the tides of war shifted, and Montrose was eventually forced into exile. Now, in 1650, he returned from the continent with a small force of mercenaries and loyal Highlanders, determined to rally Scotland once more in the royal cause. The plan was audacious, but the risks were enormous. Montrose's army was tiny, barely 1,200 men, including Germans, Danes, and Orcadians, and many of the local clans were either hostile or unwilling to commit. Nevertheless, Montrose pushed forward, landing in Orkney and then crossing to the Scottish mainland. He hoped to ignite a broader uprising that would clear the way for Charles II's return, but the Covenanter forces were ready for him. Commanded by Colonel Archibald Strachan, a shrewd and capable leader, they moved quickly to intercept Montrose before he could gather strength. Strachan cleverly masked the true size of his force, sending a small advance party to feign weakness. Montrose, misled by faulty intelligence and betrayed by local allies who deserted him at the critical moment, decided to engage. Near Carbisdale, not far from Bonar Bridge in Sutherland, the two forces clashed. It was a disaster for Montrose. His exhausted troops, poorly positioned and lacking cavalry, were quickly overwhelmed. The Covenanter horsemen scattered Montrose's infantry with brutal efficiency. Many of his foreign mercenaries were cut down as they tried to flee. Others surrendered, only to be massacred after the battle. Montrose himself escaped the immediate slaughter, wandering the rugged landscape disguised as a commoner, but his escape was short-lived. Betrayed once again, this time by Neil MacLeod of Assynt, who turned him over for a bounty, Montrose was captured and transported south to Edinburgh. His arrival in the capital was a grim spectacle. He was paraded through the streets in disgrace, chained and humiliated. On May 21st, 1650, James Graham, the once proud Marquess of Montrose, was sentenced to death by hanging, his body mutilated in a chilling act of political theatre. Montrose's death was not just the fall of a man, but the end of a certain ideal. He had fought not merely for a king, but for a vision of loyalty, honour, and a united Scotland, principles that were increasingly out of place in a world ruled by power and pragmatism. Even his enemies could not deny his bravery or his remarkable military genius. In time, Montrose's reputation would be rehabilitated, and he would be remembered as one of Scotland's greatest and most tragic heroes. Today, the Battle of Carbisdale remains a powerful reminder of how fortunes can turn on a single day, how betrayal, miscalculation, and circumstance can bring even the most brilliant leaders to ruin. And Montrose's story continues to echo through Scotland's rugged hills, a haunting testament to loyalty, ambition, and the harsh price of defeat. Thank you for joining me today on This Day in Scottish History. I hope you've enjoyed this poignant chapter of bravery and betrayal. Don't forget to check out my blog for more historical events at bagtownclans.com/thisday. Tune in tomorrow for another journey through Scotland's remarkable past. I'm Colin MacDonald. Haste you back.